East Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania was incorporated in 1895, and for the next 60 years became a destination for folks from around the world, creating a melting pot of cultures. They came from Albania, Croatia, Greece, and many other European nations, and also China and Mexico. The attraction for these varied ethnic peoples was the Westinghouse electric plant, which offered employment and security. This factory was the site of the very first commercial radio broadcast in 1920. Also from this factory came the earliest research and development of television. In 1927, Herbert Televox, Westinghouse's first robot, was built in East Pittsburgh. There have been many notable people who have come from East Pittsburgh. Authors and architects, doctors and lawyers, professors and principals, policemen, ministers, mailmen, machinists, and milkmen. And don't ever let us forget those heroes of East Pittsburgh who gave their lives for our country. So many folks to be proud of and to remember. And there was one particular group from East Pittsburgh High School who captured the hearts of East Pittsburghers, and that group's accomplishment is enduring yet today. In October 1955, the Westinghouse plant went on strike, along with plants from around the country. Thousands of people were out of work from the East Pittsburgh plant, many of them residents of the community. It was a difficult winter for many families as their main breadwinner was not at work. But there was that group of young men who provided excitement, especially for those families affected by the strike. That group of young men was the 1955-1956 East Pittsburgh Shamrock basketball team, the Cinderella Kids. The teammates were Paul Bateman, a 6-foot senior who was a threat on offense, Jack Cassidy, a 6'2" junior, top scorer for the year with 436 points. He set a then school record with 31 points in one game. John DePhillips, a 5'9" sophomore, aged only 14, but played like a polished veteran. Ray Jackson, a 6'1" senior He was a great rebounder and very speedy on defense. Mert Cavo, a 5'10" senior. He was a hustler, tough on offense and especially tough on defense. He was a winner of a Gold Award. Jack Miller, a 5'10" senior. He was a valuable sixth man. John Chan Neese. He was a senior. He was the Player of the Year in Section 16 and winner of the Gold Award. Ted Peshkopia, a 5'2" junior, one of the best set shots in the district. Emmanuel Stratos, a 5'10" junior, a clutch shooter in many games, able to score with either hand. George Stratton, a 5'10" junior, good scoring ability, especially from the outside. Bill Stratton, a 5'9" sophomore. He was a good ball handler and scorer. The head coach was the venerable Al Mihalko, a St. Bonaventure grad who coached football, basketball, and baseball at East Pittsburgh High School for many years. Dave Flood, a Notre Dame graduate, was the assistant coach. And Jim Duffy was the manager of the basketball team. The Class B Shamrocks won their first 5 games of the year. Then they lost Game 6, but to a Class A Swissvale team. Then they continued on their winning ways, growing their fan base with each and every win. They were the talk of the town and continued to entertain the families of East Pittsburgh. Those Shamrocks were a pleasant diversion from that strike-ridden town, one that they embraced. The Shamrocks won the Section 16B title and finished the regular season with a 17-3 record. They now entered the WPIAL Class B tournament. The first game was against Etna, and the Shamrocks won by a 51-35 score. Next up was Avonworth, and again the Shamrocks won by 57-44 with Neese scoring 24 points. The next game was against the defending WPIAL and state champion Wampum team and their legendary coach, L. Butler Hennon. In spite of a distinct height advantage, the Shamrocks beat Wampum 58-52 with speed and better rebounding. Cassidy, Neese, and Cavo each scored 14 points, and Stratos chipped in 12. The next game was for the WPIAL championship at the University of Pittsburgh's Fitzgerald Fieldhouse, and it was against McDonald. It was a thriller as the game went into overtime, even after the Shamrocks were behind by 8 points at halftime. Thanks to heroics of Cassidy and Neese in overtime, the Shamrocks prevailed and won 59-55. With the band and the majorettes and the cheerleaders and the twirlers leading the way in pep rallies, it was on the way to the state playoffs, with the Shamrocks defeating Berlin by 61-38, and then they beat Adams by the score of 52-48. The next game was the Western Regional Final at Westminster College against Mercer. And as usual, there was a large contingent of East Pittsburgh fans who traveled by bus and by car. Those fans were not disappointed. Mercer seemed to have the game in hand with time running out. But Cassidy stole the ball. He dribbled the length of the court and scored as the buzzer sounded. And he was fouled on the play. Cassidy calmly sank that free throw, and the Shamrocks won the game 58-57. On to the state championship. And on that day, the long Westinghouse strike ended. 3 days later, the Shamrocks met Fountain Hill, a school outside Bethlehem. They met at Albright College in Reading. Fountain Hill was a tough match for the Shamrocks, and the Shamrocks were behind most of the game, but they drew within 6 points in the second half. However, there was no late spurt this time by the Shamrocks, as Fountain Hill won 63-53. Despite the loss, the Shamrocks returned home to a hero's welcome, with an estimated 2,000 folks cheering their bus on its return to East Pittsburgh. Later in April, they were honored at one of the largest banquets ever held in the Valley, and they were presented watches and luggage and transistor radios as gifts from all of the supporters of the Valley, of the team, and those attending the banquet. The Cinderella kids came home, and they are champions forever.